Good Time is the best American Odyssey this side of Easy Rider. The film is directed by Ben and Josh Safdie? I don't know. But wait, what's an Odyssey, you're probably not asking? Well, I'll tell you anyway, because this video has to get to 7-ish minutes somehow. An Odyssey is a long wandering journey with many changes in fortune. It is these changes in fortune which create the opportunity for drama and tension in a story. And that's the official definition. But to me, calling a story an Odyssey is more about feel. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Good Time revolves around the consequences of a botched bank robbery by two brothers, Connie and Nick.
What the fuck did you do?
Nick, who is mentally handicapped, goes to prison after he's caught by the police. Connie spends the length of the film trying to get him out, knowing his brother won't last long in a Riker's jumpsuit. In my pretender's opinion, Odysseys are by nature about a character wandering with purpose. The story evolves into Odyssey when the main character meets a succession of other characters who symbolize a sort of contrast or represent a different viewpoint than the main character does. And these interactions happen as a consequence of the protagonist trying to achieve their ultimate goal within the story. These other minor characters serve to create a context that accentuates and explores the main characteristics and worldview of the protagonist. This elevates what a narrative can do because it's not bogged down by rigid structure. Probably like a lot of movies you've seen. Oops, wrong Avengers.
After tea.
Of course.
In a well-written Odyssey, these characteristics of the protagonist end up becoming more symbolic and exaggerated. Odysseys don't need to travel a vast physical distance or carry through a long time period either, like that one Homer Simpson wrote.
Don't!
Good Time spans only a couple boroughs of New York City over the course of a single night. It's more about covering a thematic distance, or getting in depth into an element of human nature. Things just seem to happen in Good Time. One event leads to another. And why is this good? Because that's how we experience life generally. People normally don't go through grand narratives or experience 3-act structures in their own lives. Things just happen in life. One thing leads to another. There's a subtle, relatable factor to stories like this. So let's talk about what makes Good Time so special besides the structure of the narrative. The film's primary focus is the relationship between two characters who hardly have any screen time together. The main character trait that most effectively describes the relationship between Connie and Nick can be summed up in one word: dependency. Connie and Nick are two brothers who are reliant on each other, albeit for different reasons. Nick relies on Connie because he needs someone to take care of him, but why is Connie dependent upon Nick? This is the main question the film tries to explore, and in the process is something about basic human nature as well. Connie goes through one hell of a night to make sure he gets his brother back. It is through the interactions with other characters, insight is given into Connie's character, and the question of Connie's dependence is answered.
Yeah. I'm serious. You think I could have done that without you standing next to me being strong?
He's an individual who craves the cognitive superiority the relationship with his brother affords him.
I want to hear about Grandma, all right? Fuck Grandma Nikki. It's just you and me. I'm your friend, all right? I love you, all right?
He risks not only his own life and freedom, but the life and freedom of his brother as well, in the name of maintaining his ego. With every new interaction, Connie becomes less of a human character and more of a symbolic agent of chaos. Every character in his wake is left arrested, beaten, dead, or worse after meeting him. His greatest talent lies in squeezing what he needs out of people, whether through force or manipulative charisma. While he uses people to keep his own ego afloat, Connie's also the most intelligent and capable character in the film as well. Good Time begs the question, why do we make the decisions that we do? Is it in the name of family and altruism? Or is it in the name of ego? Do I think about movies too much? Should I go outside more? Let's talk about another Odyssey real quick. I promise it'll have a point. Candide was a novel written in 1759 by the French philosopher Voltaire. This work of satire was originally written as a response to the concept of optimism in general, as well as a philosophical debate that was hotly contested at the time, namely, are we living in the best of all possible worlds? This debate was a result of philosophers at the time having difficulty explaining the coexistence of good and evil. Candide follows the titular character as he begins the story in an Eden-like paradise, and by the end of the novel, endures enough hardships until he has grown disillusioned with and broken by the world around him. I just spoiled a 200-year-old book. Voltaire culminates the novel and his philosophy of how to live one's life through the tactfully practical line, "We must cultivate our garden." Though this line can be read in several ways, one interpretation is the world is what we make of it. We choose how to live our lives, and there's a cause and effect relationship tied to our actions that affects the immediate world around us. But how does this relate to Good Time? As Voltaire summarized the primary thematic ideas of Candide into a single line, the Safdies gave Connie the line,
"Don't be confused.
It's just gonna make it worse for me.
Connie chose to cultivate his garden by using the people around him as tools to farm and sustain his ego. He represents the cynicism in the world that led Candide to be stripped of his optimism. Connie's actions had consequences, and the constant need to uphold his ego compromised his freedom by the end of the film. Films like Good Time are not only impressive, but important because it gives us a mirror through which we can evaluate our own actions and motivations in life, especially when it comes to depending on and interacting with other people. Our time is dependent on how we decide to use it. Maybe we can start with something practical, like gardening in our neighbor's yard, even when they have a restraining order against us. Or as a wise man once said, don't be a dick.